was really confused when I first saw these boxes. So these are Western blot botting boxes, and I was like, why would you want a box that was black where you can't see things that are in it? Whereas, like, if we're doing a Kamasi stain, we'd want a clear box so you can actually see your protein being stained. But when we're doing a Western blot, our secondary antibodies are typically light sensitive. Oftentimes, these antibodies are like conjugated or attached to a fluorophore, so a fluorescent molecule, and this allows us to shine light at one wavelength, and then it'll give back light at a different wavelength that we can measure on a machine. But if you shine light too much on those fluorophores, they kind of get like exhausted, even if it's not the exact light that they want. When you're talking about like white light, we have all these different light ranges, and then there's UV light, there's all sorts of stuff. And so basically, if you don't protect your antibodies from this light, they can get damaged. And then when you go to shine them on the machine, well, they're already worn out. So we keep them protected from the light, and this is why you see people when you're doing like a Western staining, it's typically in these black boxes. Another thing, when we're working with those secondary antibodies, we wrap them in oil. So both the tubes, the tube with the antibody, as well as like the little tube when you get it out of the freezer, keep it protected from the light. This will help you get the maximum signal possible, and not just like wear out those fluorophores. Often another thing is we have these boxes in a bunch of different sizes, and so this one, like if you were to run a gel, like I don't know, I guess maybe if you cut it off it would fit, but we have some tiny little boxes. You're like, why would you want a tiny little box? It's another thing. And so basically when you do a Western blot, you're going to be probing to look for specific proteins using these antibodies, and you can use different antibodies to probe like the same gel for different things. And sometimes you can do this on the same gel. You can do like multiplexing, where like on the same membrane, if you have antibodies, if your primary antibodies, so your primary antibody binds the thing on the gel, on the membrane. So you take the proteins, you separate them by size, you transfer them to the membrane, and now the membrane is what you're going to be probing. But if you want to then be able to detect them, and so the primary antibody binds to the protein in the gel, then you have a secondary antibody that's going to bind to that primary antibody, and the secondary antibody is going to allow you to see it. So much more on this in my Western blot post, but if you care about the boxes, you probably already know what a Western blot is. If not, check out that other post. But basically, the secondary antibody is going to recognize the generic part of the primary antibody. So all these antibodies have these two parts. They have this part that's generic, and then this unique part. And this unique part is going to recognize the unique thing that you're looking for. So it's going to recognize this protein and not this protein, or this protein and not that protein. But they also have this generic part. So this like generic adapter part. Basically, how it works is that when like an animal or something gets exposed to the thing that you want to act as an antigen, so the thing that you want it to recognize, basically that animal starts making a bunch of these antibodies, and they happens with these like weird recombination thing. But how it works basically is that you the end result, not how it works, but the end result is that you end up with this generic part and then these variable regions. And the generic parts can be generic for the animal that makes it. So if you have an antibody that was made in a rabbit, it's going to have the generic part's going to be rabbit. And then the unique parts are going to recognize your thing. So then you use a secondary antibody that recognizes the primary antibody's generic part. So you could say like have a goat anti-rabbit, and then that goat anti-rabbit would be attached to the fluorophore so you could see it. So you have this goat anti-rabbit, and then you have your rabbit anti-rabbit, you have your rabbit then bound to the thing. But say you want to also probe for two things. So you would need the unique parts to be probing, different unique parts probing for different things. If you had like an anti-rabbit or antibody and you had an anti-mouse antibody, then you could use those both and then on the same gel, and then probe them with different secondary probes. But if your protein has if you want to look for two proteins and they have the primary antibody was made in the same animal, so say you have rabbit anti-rabbit recognizing one thing and then anti-rabbit recognizing another thing, well, now if you try to put a secondary antibody, it's going to show up both bands at the same time, and you won't be able to tell them apart. Whereas if you used different secondary antibodies, you could have secondary antibodies with different wavelengths, or different detection methods, and then you could tell apart the two bands, know which one came from which. And so you might think, well, can't I just tell based on the size? But the thing is, these antibodies aren't like perfect, and so they have a lot of background often, and you want to make sure that the band that you're recognizing is specific with the antibody that you think it is. And so this is why you want to use those different secondary antibodies. But you can only do that if your primary antibodies are from different sources. If not, what you can do is like you can strip the membrane and then reprobe, which is kind of a pain. Or what you could do is you could actually like cut the gel, cut the membrane. And so I wanted to probe for two things, so I cut my membrane and then I have it in two boxes. So I could have put each in like a big box, but then you have to have more liquid when you're doing your washes, and importantly when you're doing your probing. And these antibodies are expensive, especially the primary antibodies, so you want to use like as little volume as possible. And so this is why it makes sense to use as small a box as possible, which only makes sense if you have a smaller gel or a smaller membrane. I keep saying gel, but really I'm talking about the membrane. We're doing all of this on the membrane level. Another thing is that you could actually save that membrane, so we have, or save the solution of the antibody in the TBST, save it in the fridge and reuse it. You can also, it's not ideal, but you can, if you just wash the gel for a really long time, then you could try probing for something else rather than actually going through the full deblot and regeneration. So if you realize, oh, I did the wrong antibody, you can still try the other, even without going through the whole regeneration thing, but it's not recommended practice, but I will say I've done it, and it worked, but be careful when you do that, and then make sure you use a different secondary antibody so you can tell what was before and what was there now. I don't know if that made sense to anyone. Another quick thing is that the pre-stained ladders, like if you're using like Precision Plus all blue or whatever, they often have a wavelength that they will absorb at. And so if you using like the gel dock or whatever, if you shine like 650, 647 or whatever around there, the all blue stains will show up on your gel, and so you can actually get the ladder. If you use an antibody that has the same wavelength, you can get it all in one image. If not, you can do it at two separate wavelengths and then overlay the figures. But yeah, so you will be able to see your ladder hopefully. But basically, I started this just talking about block boxes and trying to get inside this black box. And so this is just a random from the lab, from the bench, black box demystified. Good luck with your westerns.